I guess if you really want to hear about it, I should start with that first weird drop. It was a Wednesday, technically Thursday morning, around 2:45 a.m. I was on my usual late shift route, working for this no-name courier company I'd signed on with about 3 months prior. You do what you gotta do when you're a single mom trying to make rent, right? Anyway, I pull up to this house, some random suburban neighborhood I'd never been to before. It was the only house on the entire street that didn't have a single porch light on. The label on the package just read, "Deliver at the door, no knock necessary." Odd instructions, but not the weirdest I've seen. I'm used to people wanting to avoid being disturbed at night. So I step out of my beat-up Nissan, package in hand, scanning for a house number. It's barely visible in the dark, but I confirm I'm at the right place. Fine. I walk up the driveway, nearly tripping over a loose chunk of concrete, and place the box by the door. At that point, I'm supposed to snap a quick photo for proof of delivery. Standard procedure, yeah? That's when I notice this sheet of paper taped to the door. White, letter-sized, no handwriting. I squint closer. It was just typed text. It's, "Karen, right? You have 2 kids, Nate and Stella." My first thought? What the hell? I mean, yeah, my name's Karen, but how would they know about my kids? They're not on my official courier profile or anything. I felt my gut twist up like I'd just been socked. My immediate reaction was to think it might be some weird mistake. Like maybe there's another Karen out there with kids named Nate and Stella. That's not exactly an everyday coincidence, but I don't know. Weirder shit has happened. Still, I found myself stepping back, scanning the windows. Maybe some creep was messing with me. But every single window was pitch black, no sign of life. It didn't help that the house next door also looked deserted. No lights, no cars. I had the sudden urge to call my boss or something, but it was almost 3 a.m, and let's be honest, I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. My phone's camera kept refusing to focus for the proof of delivery shot, like it was glitching out in the darkness. I snapped a blurry pic anyway. Then I tore the note off the door, don't ask me why, panic maybe, and bolted back to my car. I couldn't shake this feeling like someone was watching me. I mean, I looked over my shoulder like 3 times before I even turned the ignition. Looking back on it now, that was the moment I should have said, "Screw this job," and gone home. But I didn't. I shrugged it off as some weird joke and drove off. I had more deliveries to finish before morning, and I needed the overtime. The big monthly bills don't give a damn about your creepshow run-in at 3 a.m. Let me rewind a bit. Explain how I ended up running these late-night routes in the first place. I'm 41, divorced, mother of 2 teenagers who eat through my fridge like locusts. My ex-husband is about as reliable with child support as a cardboard umbrella in a monsoon, so I needed extra cash. Simple as that. I used to work at a local grocery store during the day, but the pay was crap and the hours were too unpredictable. A friend of a friend mentioned this courier gig. Great pay, flexible hours, perfect for a single mom. Right. I should have realized there was a catch. I'd be delivering weird shit at weird hours, often to addresses that felt like they'd been pulled out of some Twilight Zone directory. At first, it was fine. Most nights, I'd drop off random parcels, maybe urgent documents or meds for housebound clients. Tips were decent if I made same-night deliveries. It didn't feel dangerous. I mean, yeah, some neighborhoods were sketchy, but I've lived in rough spots. I know how to keep my head down. But over the past few weeks, I'd noticed more and more deliveries going to addresses with no lights on, or these vacant spots in half-built developments. Shit that made me question who the hell sets up shop in such places at 3 a.m. Every time I called dispatch, they insisted the addresses were verified, and that the client paid for no questions asked service. I never pried too deep. The truth is, I was too exhausted juggling everything in my life to have the energy for paranoia. So, yeah, that's how I got here. Driving through the suburbs, half dead from lack of sleep, ignoring that gnawing anxiety creeping up my spine. But that typed note about my kids? That was a line crossed. Even I could feel it. I thought about telling my kids the next day, but I didn't want them freaking out. Nate's 16, moody as hell, and Stella's 14, sweet but anxious. No way was I going to dump more worry on them. So I just kept it to myself, figuring it was a one-off. Some bored loser pulling a prank. Turned out I was dead wrong. That was just the start. About a week later, I get another late-night request. Different suburb, still in the same general area, but again, everything about it felt off. I'd gotten a text from dispatch at 2 a.m. Urgent, please pick up package at warehouse and deliver to 3857 Pine Hollow. Doctor payment doubled. I was already out on a standard route, so I said screw it. Let's see how much doubling the fee can help me buy groceries. I drove over to our main pickup spot, a dingy warehouse on the edge of town. I guess it's our version of a hub, but it's pretty much just an old loading dock behind a row of shuttered storefronts. Creepy as all get out at night, but I'd done it 100 times by then. Only this time, the package waiting for me wasn't the usual brown cardboard box. It was a worn-out baby blue shoebox sealed with heavy duct tape. No shipping label except an address scrawled in red marker. No name, no phone number, nothing. Who left this? I asked the dispatcher on the phone. We never met in person. Communication was all text or calls. His voice crackled with static. Client did. Just deliver it, Karen. I sighed. Look, can you at least confirm? He cut me off, told me everything was verified, and then hung up. Real charming. So I hopped back in my car, shoebox on the passenger seat, heading for Pine Hollow Drive. It was half an hour outside city limits, definitely off the beaten path. As I drove, I noticed the roads got emptier, the houses more spaced out. Eventually, I turned onto a street with brand new asphalt, lines so fresh they practically glowed under my headlights. Pine Hollow. Let me tell you, that place was bizarre. Only a few houses were finished. The rest were skeletons of plywood and cinder blocks. Streetlights were few and far between. The one shining above 3857 flickered, making everything look like a broken stop-motion film. I parked, double-checked the address. Same story. No lights on in the house. Looks half-furnished, if that. My watch read 3:12 a.m. I tried calling the client's contact number. Standard routine if I can't confirm a location. But it went straight to voicemail. Fine, I thought. I'll just drop it off. I grabbed the shoebox, walked up the short driveway, and nearly tripped over a chunk of rebar in the gloom. The front door had a note taped to it again. No, not taped. Nailed. There was a big rusted nail hammered in at an odd angle, pinning the paper. My heart hammered in my chest as I pulled it free, careful not to rip it. The note read, "We're so glad you're here, Karen. We know your shift ends at 5. This won't take long." I muttered a quiet, "Fuck this," under my breath. I placed the box down, set my phone to snap a photo for proof, and realized my camera app had gone dark. Screen was fine, just the camera feed was black. I tried tapping it, resetting it, nothing. At that point, I didn't even care about the picture. My adrenaline was spiking. Someone had hammered a note to a damn door, specifically addressed. To me, I hustled back to my car, half expecting to see someone lurking behind me. The shadows playing off the half-built houses were messing with my head. Slamming the car door shut, I locked it and peeled out of there as fast as I could. All the while, I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, convinced I might see a silhouette chasing after me. Thankfully, there was nothing, just my own reflection, looking every bit as freaked out as I felt. That night, or morning, whatever, I got home around 5:30. The kids were still asleep. I just lay down on the couch, heart still racing, staring at the living room ceiling. The question pounding in my mind was, who the hell is ordering these deliveries and why are they referencing my personal life? After maybe an hour of restless tossing, I grabbed my phone and started searching online for anything about that address. 3857 Pine Hollow Doctor. Didn't find squat. Just a half-completed real estate listing with no mention of current occupants. Next, I checked our courier's booking system from my phone. There's usually a digital trail of who requests what. But weirdly, these particular requests had no client info, just an internal code. A code I'd never seen before. Slate 33. Tried calling my boss, who I've never actually met in person. She runs a small operation, mostly employing remote drivers like me. Goes by the name Carla, but all I got was her voicemail. I left a message, something along the lines of, "Hey, sorry for calling so early, but I need to talk to you about these weird deliveries. It's urgent." Didn't get a call back until noon. When she finally rang me, she was impatient, almost annoyed. "Karen, I got your message. The client pays well. Is that not enough?" "Not if they're leaving cryptic notes about my kids. That's messed up, Carla." She paused. I could hear her breathing. "Clients sometimes do personal handoffs for sensitive reasons. You're not in any danger." "What the fuck does that even mean?" I hissed into the phone, trying not to shout because my kids were in the next room. "All I can say is that the client specifically requested you. They gave us your name. They're paying double. If it's too uncomfortable, I can reassign." But something in her tone gave me the impression that if I refused, I might lose more than just these shifts. They needed drivers who wouldn't ask questions. People who keep their heads down and do the job. Before I could argue further, she hung up, leaving me with half a mind to quit on the spot. But rent was looming. My grocery bills were skyrocketing. Nate's about to need braces. I felt trapped, cornered by my own damn finances. I promised myself I'd never accept another job from Slate 33, but promises in my life rarely stick, especially when money's dangled in front of me. Sure enough, less than a week later, I got another request. Triple pay this time. 2 nights after that conversation with Carla, I received a text at 1:50 a.m. Pickup at warehouse. Delivery. 1416. Overlook LN, Silver Creek. Payment X3. Urgent. I stared at my phone for a solid minute. Triple pay. That amount could cover my entire phone bill and most of the utilities if I just did one single run. Ridiculous. But I had a twisted knot in my stomach reminding me what happened last time. Then I glanced at the stack of bills on my kitchen table and let out the kind of sigh that comes from deep resignation. So I went. I know, call me an idiot, but you don't understand the desperation unless you've been there. Once again, I ended up at that scummy warehouse. Another unlabeled box sat waiting for me, with that same scrawled red marker for an address, 1416 Overlook. I put it in the trunk this time, not wanting it in my passenger seat where I had to look at it. Silver Creek was about 40 minutes away, a rural sprawl of farmland and abandoned barns. I hadn't delivered there before. The roads kept getting narrower, and the wind outside my car turned into a slow, mournful howl that seeped in through the windows. I tried turning on some music to break the tension, but every station was static. I gave up. By the time I arrived, it was about 2:45 a.m. 1416. Overlook Lane wasn't even a proper house, just a rundown property with boarded-up windows, a broken fence, and an overgrown yard. My headlights swept across the silhouette of a rusted swing set leaning sideways in the tall grass. The place reminded me of the sets from those true crime shows I sometimes watched to fall asleep. I parked on the roadside, engine idling, my stomach churning with dread. "This is insane," I muttered to no one in particular. Then the phone buzzed. "Come inside. Leave package on kitchen table." I literally said out loud, "Absolutely not. Who in their right mind just walks into an abandoned house at 3 a.m? But the text pinged again. "No payoff unless you follow instructions, Karen. The door is open. Fuck." My head was screaming, "Get the hell out of there," but my bank account was screaming louder. Like an idiot, I grabbed a flashlight from the glove compartment and popped the trunk. The box felt heavier than before, heavier than something that fit in a shoebox or small carton should. I tried not to think about what might be inside. The front door was indeed open, practically off its hinges. The stench inside hit me like a wave. Stale air, mold, and something else. Something sharp and metallic I couldn't place. The flashlight beam cut through the dusty darkness, revealing torn wallpaper and a warped floor. My breath sounded too, loud in my ears. I crept forward, scanning each step in front of me. The house was vacant, but not in a normal way. It looked more like someone had ransacked it, or performed some kind of ritual there. Random furniture was upended. Broken frames lay scattered. Then, in the hallway leading to what I assumed was the kitchen, I spotted another goddamn note, taped to the peeling wall. I approached it, heart pounding. "We've been waiting, Karen. Put the box on the table. Do not open it." This was so beyond messed up. My inner voice screamed at me to turn around, but something about it also felt orchestrated, like it was a performance. I inched into the kitchen, if you could call it that, just a greasy counter and a busted fridge. A rickety table stood in the middle, cluttered with half-burned newspapers. I set the box down, my arms trembling like I'd just run a marathon. Then I heard it, a quiet shuffle from behind me, like a foot sliding across the floor. I whipped around, flashlight beam dancing on the grimy walls, but saw no one. I swear in that moment, my pulse hammered so violently, I thought my heart would burst out of my chest. Without another second's hesitation, I bolted. I didn't care about proof of delivery or any of that. I sprinted back to my car, jumped in, started the engine. The relief I felt hearing that engine turn over was almost enough to bring tears to my eyes. But as I floored it, I realized I had a flat. The car rumbled awkwardly, and I had to pull over not even 20 feet from the driveway. A slow, sinking dread washed over me. I flicked on my hazard lights, jumped out, and sure enough, my back tire was slashed, clean cut right through. The rubber. Someone wanted me stuck there. I might have lost my damn mind in that moment. I started yelling into the darkness. "Who's out there? Why are you doing this?" My voice sounded small, lost in the open farmland. No reply, just the wind rustling in the tall grass. If you've never felt true isolation, let me tell you, that was it. My phone had 1 bar of signal. I tried calling Carla. She didn't pick up. I left a frantic voicemail about how I was stranded, the tire was slashed, and this was way out of line. Then I tried calling 911, but the call dropped after a few rings. Perfect. So I did the only thing I could. Locked myself in my car and prayed for a miracle. I texted my neighbor to see if he could come help me out. He didn't respond. Probably asleep. I jammed my keys in the ignition in case I needed to make a quick getaway if whoever was out there decided to approach. Only problem is you can't flee on a slashed tire. I kept swiveling my head, checking my mirrors every time the wind rustled. Every shadow felt like a person creeping closer. Hours seemed to crawl by. Realistically, it was maybe 20 minutes. Then, my phone buzzed. "We told you to leave the package. Good job. But you left too soon." My vision blurred with panic. Too soon? What else did they want me to do? Another text followed. "Look under your seat. Drive safe." My seat. I slowly reached beneath and felt something taped to the frame. My heart hammered so loud I might as well have been hearing thunder in my ears. Carefully, I peeled off a small envelope. Inside was a single key. Looked like a standard house key, unlabeled, and a slip of paper with scrawled handwriting. "This is for the next stop." Next stop? They'd already slashed my tire. What the fuck else could they possibly want? While I was processing that, headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. A truck. Relief flooded me. I figured it must be a random farmer or someone who could help me. I stepped out, waving my arms. The truck slowed and pulled up behind me, headlights blazing so bright I could barely see. A figure got out, a tall man with a beard wearing a baseball cap. "Car trouble?" he asked. His voice was gruff, local, accent. "Yeah, my tire..." I tried not to sound hysterical. He walked around, took a quick look, and whistled. "Slashed, huh? Nasty one. You want me to patch you up? I got a spare kit in the truck, but it's not the best." For a split second, I worried this might be the person messing with me. But something in his demeanor seemed genuine. Maybe my luck was turning. While he worked on a makeshift patch, I kept glancing around, half expecting to see someone else, lurking, but nobody came. Eventually, he managed to seal the worst of it. "This should get you to a 24-hour gas station, but not much farther," he told me. "Don't be messing around on these roads at night." I thanked him 100 times over, and he told me to drive safe. Then he was gone, taillights fading, around the bend. I hopped in my car and tore out of there, limping along at maybe 20 mph. The entire time, I couldn't stop thinking about the key and the instructions. This is for the next stop. The next day, I showed up unannounced at the courier company's physical address. Turned out it was a tiny office in a strip mall. Looked more like a tax prep place than anything else. Carla was there, hunched over a computer. She jumped when she saw me. "What the hell, Karen?" she snapped, obviously not used to seeing drivers in person. "I didn't..." "Shut up," I barked. "You tell me right now who Slate 33 is, or I swear to God I'm going to the cops." Carla tried to maintain composure, but I saw her eye twitch. Then she sighed. "We have a very private client. They contact me directly. Always pay in cash or wire transfers. It's more than half this office's income. If I lose them, we shut down." "That's not my problem," I said, voice shaking, with anger. "They're harassing me, leaving notes about my kids, messing with my car, telling me to go into abandoned houses. You think that's normal?" She looked down at her desk. "Karen, I had no idea it was this extreme. They only told me they had personal reasons for wanting you on the deliveries. Something about an old grudge. I don't know. I swear I don't know more." My entire body froze. "An old grudge? They gave you no name?" She shook her head. "All communication is through burner phones and anonymous emails. The only reason I keep it going is because I need the money too." I stormed out before she could finish. "Old grudge?" My mind raced. Could it be my ex-husband, Mark? But last I heard, Mark was living in Arizona with his new girlfriend. Hardly the type to orchestrate some elaborate midnight mind game, or maybe some neighbor I pissed off in the past. Some co-worker from a job I'd left ages ago. That evening, I found another note shoved under my front door. It was typed again, like the first one. "We're not done yet. One more delivery. Then, you'll understand." It listed an address across town. Included was a date and time, Friday, 3 a.m. I felt sick reading it. My kids were in their rooms, probably on TikTok or playing games, unaware their mom was about to drive headfirst into some twisted trap. But ignoring it wasn't an option, because I had a sinking feeling that whoever was behind this had ways to track me down whenever, wherever. Friday came too fast. I barely slept. My kids noticed I was jumpy, but I blamed it on deadlines at work. At 2:30 a.m., I slipped out of the house, heart pounding against my ribs. The address was close enough to skip the usual warehouse pickup. According to the instructions, I just had to show up empty-handed. The place was an old boarded-up dentist's office in a part of town that had gone downhill since the local mill shut down. Broken streetlights, graffiti on the walls, that sort of vibe. I pulled up at 3:05 a.m. scanning the building. All the windows had metal shutters, but the front door was propped open with a cinder block. A single streetlight buzzed overhead, flickering ominously. My phone lit up with a new text. Inside, Use the key we gave you. Back room. I swallowed, hard, remembering that key from under my seat. My hands shook as I fished it out of my pocket. I left my headlights on, like that would somehow protect me, and walked into the building. It smelled like mildew and old chemicals. The hallway was lined with broken dental chairs, overturned boxes of supplies. At the end of the hallway, I found a locked door that looked sturdier than the rest. I slid the key into the knob, turned it. Click. The door creaked open, revealing a small office with a desk and filing cabinets. My eyes flicked around, half expecting to see a figure lurking. But it was empty, except for one flickering fluorescent light overhead. On the desk was a manila folder. My name was written on it in black marker. I approached, chest tightening, with dread, and opened it. Inside were photographs of me. At my kids' school events, at the grocery store, loading my trunk with groceries, leaving my house late at night for deliveries. There were logs, typed up, detailing my schedule. When I leave, when I come home, what time I pick up Stella from dance practice, what time I drop Nate off at his friend's place. Each page felt like a violation of everything I held dear, and then I saw a final page, a list of possible addresses. They were all the places I'd delivered over the past month, the vacant houses, the half-built developments. Next to each was a date and a check mark, like someone was systematically leading me on a breadcrumb trail. For what? Some twisted revenge? My phone buzzed again. Now you see. You took everything from me. I warned you once, years ago. I told you you'd regret it. Years ago? I racked my brain. My ex? No. This had to be something else. Another text. I was the foreclosure agent on your old home. Remember? You threatened me when I handed you the eviction notice. You called me a monster. That day cost me my job, my family. Tonight, I return the favor. I almost laughed at the absurdity, except it felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I did lose my house a few years back, but I sure as hell didn't ruin someone else's life. Did I? My memory was hazy. I'd been in a rage, sobbing over losing my home, cursing at the agent who delivered the notice. But to orchestrate this level of harassment over that, it was psychotic. The door behind me slammed shut. I spun around, heart lodged in my throat. Footsteps clattered down the hallway. I lunged for the doorknob, but it had no lock from the inside. The overhead light flickered like a heartbeat, and I heard the unmistakable sound of that cinder block being dragged away from the front door, scraping across the tiled floor. They were trying to seal me in. No, 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 I muttered, panic fueling me. I sprinted for the door, yanked it open, and charged into the hall. It was empty, only the echo of footsteps outside. I ran for the exit, expecting it to be blocked, but when I shoved it, it flew open into the night air. I burst out onto the street, gasping. My car's headlights still illuminated the curb, engine still running. Without looking back, I hurled myself into the driver's seat, slammed the door, and peeled off. My breath was ragged, tears pricking my eyes as everything sank in. I was shaking so badly, I nearly swerved off the road. Somehow, I made it home, drifting through the silent streets. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window, watching, for any sign that someone might have followed me. The kids slept on, oblivious. In the weeks since, I've tried to piece together the aftermath. The police? Useless. I filed a report, showed them pictures of the notes, told them about the slashed tire and the addresses. They did a few cursory checks, found no evidence of a person living in those abandoned spots. The phone numbers used to contact me were all burners. The name Slate33 led nowhere. Carla claims the client disappeared. The money stopped coming. So, at least that's over. For now. But the damage is done. I can't shake the feeling that the stalker, whoever they are, still has eyes on me. Every time I drive at night, I flinch at passing headlights. I changed my phone number, changed my locks, tried to reassure my kids that everything's fine. But let's be real. I'm fucking terrified. The late deliveries have ended, but I haven't forgotten the final message they sent me that night. I can still see it glowing on my phone screen. We're not finished. The worst is yet to come. So that's it. That's my horror story. The one that I live with every damn day. If you're looking for a happy ending, I don't have one. I survived, sure, but I'm always looking over my shoulder. And every time the phone rings after midnight, my pulse spikes. Because I know, somewhere, out there, someone's still watching, waiting. I wish I could say I've moved on, but the truth is I sleep with a bat by my bed. And if the phone buzzes in the middle of the night, I don't answer. So if there's one takeaway from my messed up experience, it's this. Sometimes the ghosts in our lives aren't undead spirits or Hollywood monsters. They're real people, with twisted vendettas and too much time on their hands. And if you ever see a shady delivery offer that seems too good to be true, do yourself a favor. Walk away. Because the nightmares you get paid for, well, sometimes the paycheck isn't nearly enough to cover the cost. You made it to the end, but are you sure the story's over? Some things have a way of sticking with you, creeping back in when you least expect it. If you want more nightmares, there's another story waiting for you right here. But don't say I didn't warn you. And before you go, tell me in the comments, what would you have done differently? Or maybe the better question is, what would you do if this ever happened to you? Subscribe if you haven't already. Just don't blame me when you start sleeping with the lights on.